Does it sound clear and all that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was struggling yesterday with the microphone because I wanted to run stuff through Ableton
Hmm.
so I could go, "Ooh." I can actually play music with the
Oh,
microphone because I wanted to run.
you still there?
Yep.
There you are.
All right.
There he
So,
is. I believe we are happen to be live, and I'm
hello.
here with a machine
What's happening?
from Rabbit in the Moon.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome to have you. What a great shirt.
Oh, thank you. I've been in a really weird coil mood lately, like
Oh,
listening
that's
to a
a good
lot of
mood,
their
though. Huh?
doom and gloom.
I think a coil mood is a kind of a good mood, though. It's like, oh, look at that forest behind you. It's very
That's my
nice.
Too Dark Park.
Oh, so the story in Two Dark Park is actually a theme on an album I'm working on right now, which is
What's
I
that?
found out at 60 years of age, after living my whole life in a city, that
Okay.
there was an ancient 3,000-year-old village in the forest in Stanley Park that kind of like never gets talked about. And the history of those people never get really talked about. And it blew my mind because as a kid, when you're wandering through trails like that, I was always finding like rock sculptures and formations and stuff. And I was wondering, well, I wonder if some street person just built this, or if some hippies just pulled it in here in the '60s. And then,
Right.
of course, it made perfect sense that the history of a forest goes back to an ancient civilization. But they didn't talk about it because the civilization got rubbed out by you know the I guess you might say the modernization
Mm.
of people coming in from Europe and landing on the same land and then bringing the smallpox with them
Oh, and where was this?
in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, okay.
And so there's a 10,000 acre park in the midst of the city, if you can believe it. It actually ends the city. And it's
Oh,
a
wow.
dense forest.
That's really
And
interesting.
at nearly 60 years of age, I'm finding out about this thing called X-Way or Woy Woy in Salish. But it was an ancient village. It just blew my mind. So that became my whole concept. And then, so how we got here, as you were saying about Two Dark Park. So ironically, it's the same park, same theme. So Two Dark Park kind of like also takes on a new name twist.
That's interesting.
But
I had a weird story about a family member way back. Her and her brother were actually captured by Indians, and the boy died. Apparently, they killed him or something, and they kept her for years and took her to what is now Ohio. And these Canadian fur traders found her with the Indians, and they basically bought her and took her to Canada. And she had to like work for them and pay off the debt. But there's a monument that she's actually the first white person in Ohio ever. Like she was the original resident. But it's
smuggled
one
in.
of my relatives, and it was like such a bizarre story because I think in our blood is memory. I mean, they talk about this in our cells and our DNA, not just our blood. And ever since I was a kid, when there was cowboys and Indians, I wanted to be an Indian. I wanted to dress like one. I wanted to listen to their music. I wanted to be involved in smoking a peace pipe. Like I was all in. Cowboys couldn't care less. But if
Yes,
you like gave me a crazy headdress and like, and I think like, how weird is that that years later I find out about her and I'm like, how bizarre. Like in my blood is this Indian roots of this woman who lived with them for years.
that's amazing. I didn't ever guess there was a story with you like that. But I mean, you're a Florida boy, aren't you?
I am. I was actually born in Ohio though, but I moved to Florida so young that I mean now I'm an LA boy
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I've been out here over 10 years. So
Yep, that
Once
makes
you
sense.
hit 10 years, you're kind of like an Angelino. They keep you.
I always was blown away by St. Augustine, Florida. How
Hmm.
you kind of, if you went there, you could kind of feel like what it was like if you first settled or came here, and then you kind of like had to fend off your presence, and
Oh yeah.
it's kind of depicted well within the way that city is still set up. You can kind of get a
Yeah,
good
I've
imagination going.
I've been to some forts like that in Spain, where they're like on the side of the coast and it's like this giant fort that they just were like waiting for someone to come try to take their shit.
So Florida, man, when I think of Florida, I mean, I got to think of bass and the
Hmm.
bass cars, and especially like around the time when you guys sort of hit the scene. Was it like, was that during the rave scene or was that during the bass scene?
Here we'll go to Florida. Okay, now we're in Florida. Um, well, the rave scene, funny enough, was kind of started by us and some other people in Florida because there just wasn't that happening. And we heard about it, was like, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Instead of playing in clubs, let's find an abandoned warehouse and
Yeah,
set up a club for one night, which is what a rave was. And whether it was legal or illegal, it didn't matter. It was just the point that you were taking people to a new environment, giving them something new and they'd only get it for one night. So it wasn't like this place that they could just repeat over and over again. And I think that made it really attractive to people, kind of like a scavenger hunt, a treasure that they found.
and the rave flyers in the day were always super special too. Did you guys have
Yeah, I mean,
handing
I
out?
think I think art and music go like I remember telling a friend of mine, this is a funny religious story, is he wanted to be a Catholic priest. And I remember telling him, I said, you know, I've been to a Catholic church and I thought it was really cool, the music and everything else. I said, but I always found it interesting that that has nothing to do with religion. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, well, if you're basing religion on Jesus and all these other things, the church and the fanfare and the art and everything that they made to make religion feel larger than life is what made people feel religion. And I think music and art, light shows, sound, all that stuff does the same thing. That's why people feel like when they go to your shows, they feel like they have a religious experience because it's like something they don't just get every day. It's like walking into a beautiful church. You
Yeah,
feel God even if you're not religious.
I remember witnessing Dwayne Gettle's sort of immersion into the rave techno scene, and it,
Hmm.
it literally changed his life once he had heard Ascend, and then followed the path to a lot of the LA rave culture
Hmm.
stuff that was going on at the time, and it immediately changed. It was like a page change for him.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm sure he would have gone on to greater levels. He just kind of got going with his own sort of like techno project at the time before he died, but I'm sure he probably even knew about you guys.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I kind of how do what do I consider him? I think in Skinny Puppy, wasn't he kind of like the heart, like the melody of some of the stuff that was going on with you guys?
Actually, that's funny because a lot of people wonder about that, and it's actually I was like, I mean, I don't want to say he wasn't and he was because I just want to tell what happened, but
Hmm.
I was like the more of the songwriter guy, and Dwayne would come along and then add things that just
Okay.
made embellishments that made it go further. And in some cases, like Warlock, he came wholehearted with the entire arrangement and stuff like that. But oddly, I wrote probably 80 or 90% of the melodic songs that were
Okay.
known.
Yeah,
But
because that was one
Dwayne,
thing we never talked about. Like I know that you did a lot of the sampling and a lot of the
see,
music.
that was more Dwayne.
Huh?
Dwayne was more of the efficient sampler. He was the guy that
Oh,
would
okay.
spend the whole afternoon making a kit,
Oh no,
And
we were talking about Emaxes and you were
yeah,
talking about
and he'd
sampling
make the
those. So
samples, and then lucky old me, I'd just come along and go, "Oh, great, Dwayne,
I got a good
boobity
sample for you.
boobadoo,"
Here you go.
and I programmed with the sounds that he'd so busily be using making all day. So it was kind of like we did have a glorious system down. If
Hmm.
I made an idea, I could just take it as far as I could, and then give it to Dwayne, and then by how when you work with somebody else, it's just that naturally you're ready to go again by the time they finish their spell. So there was a really good ball bouncing situation that was going on.
Okay, that's cool.
Now that's not
Yeah,
going.
like what I meant to by melodic is your stuff always has like a drive to it, very modular, very drum machiney, all this stuff. You know what I mean? And so I thought maybe he was the one that was more like, let's take Warlock and put this weird vocoder behind the voice that sounds almost like chorusy and pretty. You know what I mean?
That was full on Dwayne structure.
Okay.
Warlock is really his baby, crown and glory. I mean, I came home and the whole string arrangement was there, and I was lucky enough to be able to make the bass line and all the drums, and then I did the Beatles middle part, the
Hmm.
Manson Beatles part, and then some of the other samples, and then basically we went into Mushroom from there, and that was always a group effort taking it to the end. And I know the refining of that vocoder took a very long time. I'm sure Ray and Dwayne worked for an
It's
age
funny.
getting
I
it
have
right.
a vocoder now that's like, it's so easy now where you can just like, I can do this.
Oh, I lost you.
Can you hear this?
Oh, that yes, all right.
Check one, two.
Yeah, baby.
So like,
That's what I'm talking about. That's Florida in the house.
I can do like full chords.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
amazing. But no, like now it's like literally a plug-in where before you had to route a synth to it and put it through a box and put a microphone and like try to make sure it even sounded halfway cool.
what do you got back there? It looks like you've got, is that a Mirage or an ESQ on the top?
On the very top,
Yeah.
that's a Juno 106,
Oh, okay. Juno 106.
and that's a 101.
Ooh,
That is a Korg XL thing. It's like it's cool. It has a microphone built in, so you can do vocoder stuff. It's a 303, a 606, another 303, a Moog. Uh, uh, I always want to call it something fatty, but it's Slim Fatty.
a Slim Pad.
I've got one of the realistic Moogs that they used to sell at Radio Shack.
Radio Shack move. All right. Nice.
Uh, a 909, an ARP Odyssey, like one of the early original ones, and the newer stuff like the Roland TR8S drum machine, which is really awesome. And then I have a controller up there that I can control Ableton, so I can actually jam up here, but still be back here mixing stuff with this and adding effects to the old equipment and things like that. So it's a really cool way to work. It's kind of like modern throwback technology.
Has that really been an essential part of most of the music that you've made during the time? Is that set up?
Well, it was weird because I kind of redid my studio recently because I wanted like I wanted to feel like I could jam live because for me when I first started making music, I didn't set my studio up as a mix engineer. I set my studio up back then as like I'm on stage, like I had keyboard stands. Everything was, you would pretty much have to stand up to work anything. You didn't sit down and produce. And I had this philosophy recently when I was DJing on my little setup that I stand up to DJ, right? And when you stand up to DJ, you feel like more rhythmic and more like you're moving your body and you're kind of like bouncing around. You don't sit down to DJ, right? It just would seem. I mean, I
I
did
don't
it.
think I
I
ever
did
had
it at
that.
your house. I sat down,
Oh yeah, true.
but no, but like
That's
you
for
just
long
feel
hours.
more energy standing up.
Yeah.
And so I set my stuff up where my computer desk rises on hydraulics and I can stand up and touch this stuff. I can stand up and work the computer. And it kind of just gives me that feeling that I used to feel when I just was like jamming. Because I'm a keyboard player. I can play. I'm not just a programmer. So I like doing both. I like having the technology to be a programmer, but then at the same time play a riff and tweak stuff live and all that stuff.
I really like your Seven Loves Electro,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, EP. Is that so? Is that the direction that are you still electro? Are you going in the electro world?
Yeah, that's
I love electro.
funny with Rab and the Moon. You know, we've just always evolved our sound in different ways. And sometimes that works and sometimes that's, not as cool. But I always feel like my center of music is probably electro mixed with like industrial and techno. So that EP was actually kind of a concept. Bunny, the other guy in the band, he was having a daughter, his first daughter. And when his wife was pregnant, anytime he was in his studio playing electro music and just electro music, the baby would dance inside her stomach. It would like move a lot. And the baby's name is Seven. And so he was like, man, Seven loves electro. We should write her a song. And I literally just jammed some parts one day and sent them to him, and him and his friend messed around with some beats, and we came up with Seven Loves Electro. And we decided to make it a whole EP, a whole electro EP. And I think that's, I think you always just want to make music that you feel inspired from a source, right? Organically.
But is it coming from that gear I'm seeing right there?
Some of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of that one though was in the box. A lot of that.
I love
I
the
used I used like the Roland TRS 8 and stuff, but the overall sounds were actually more Serum, the plugin.
right Serum.
Yeah.
Is that your number one go-to soft synth?
It's I'll tell you what, it's one of the ones that's very reliable.
I love
So it's super diverse. And if you're trying to make growly, interesting, electro-y bass sounds, it's great for that. I mean, it's so simple and it's so clear how to like go in and arrange stuff and use macros to get those like weird tweaks and things like that. It's definitely one of my favorites for sure.
Steve Duda, man, the guy's got a good mind. He's invented quite a few killer things. I really
Yeah,
love
I really actually like his LFO tool is
LFO
amazing.
tool is fantastic.
Like for techie people, they're going to be like, what does that mean? But, a lot of times when you're dealing with sound, you're always trying to like shape it. It's like this one thing and you're trying to like sculpt and chisel away elements of it and bring other elements out and kind of just really make what you want. And there's just these
Mhm.
certain tools that do that. And the LFO tool is one of them.
Do you ever
Like
go back and
captures.
use Massive after that, or do you just like put it
Do I
aside?
what?
Do you ever go back and use Massive after you have used Serum, or is it just no?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The new Massive is really cool too.
Really, I haven't ventured it.
Massive X. Yeah.
Is there any other go-to
Here we go. Now we can have now we can
anthem
have
stuff?
some bunny. Here's bunny like grinding somebody's face.
Man, I've yet to be able to catch one of your official live shows. So, what's the status on the live shows? Look at the production you guys put into it.
Yeah, this was us playing in Korea. Actually, some of it's yeah. I think most of it's Ultra in Korea.
Was
Actually, some
that
of it was EDC too. What's
was,
that?
was that during the time when Bunny got hit with the bottle?
No, but that was like that was over 10 years ago.
So So this is more recent then.
Yeah, this was like when we kind of reformed because we hadn't played in like 6 years.
Okay.
We just kind of took a break. We've been, doing it and doing it and doing it for years. And we just got to a point where we weren't growing together. So we needed some separation. And yeah, I mean, we just eventually, as the story goes, we got asked by a big company called Ultra to reform for one of their anniversary parties. And, we didn't want to just do it as a remember when. I was actually, I'll have to admit, I was really inspired by Skinny Puppy at that time because,
Ooh, awesome.
well, I had seen you guys probably the last time was in the 90s, like during Two Dark Park, like was when I saw you play live. And, fast forward like 2 decades or
Right.
more. Um, I saw you again and like I think it was 2006 or earlier, maybe whenever that tour was. You played in LA. But no, long story short is watching you guys play live again, you had really cool visuals, you had really cool like your sound just felt better, like the production. You know what I mean? Modern production, modern engineers, you maybe had a better sound guy. But I just remember sitting there going, wow, like this is just so amazing because I haven't really gone and paid attention to Skinny Puppy in over a decade for shows. And here they are doing this thing where it's like, I'm not doing a remember when feeling for your show. I'm like, wow, this feels better than half the shit out there today. Like it felt more modern and more interesting. And so when Bunny and I kind of talked about getting back together to do a show,
Oh, wow.
that was our thought was we need to make sure that we're pushing ourselves forward and we're not just doing some remember when bullshit from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so we really upped our game with our visual content, all of our, performances. Like if we had a girls on stage doing something interesting, like everything was new. And it worked great because these promoters that had seen us for years since they started were like, holy crap, like Rabbit in the Moon's doing something new. And I think that just excited our fan base as well. And we just kept doing it ever since until coronavirus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's an awesome way to come back is through Ultra and that sort of support they give in the festivals. And then you
Yeah.
guys have been rocking it on the main stage, right?
Well, what's crazy is Ultra happened because we gave them our audience at the time. We had like 10,000 people plus that would go to any show we played in Florida.
Florida's so
And
supportive.
these new, huh?
Florida's always so supportive.
Well, we just really, we were becoming the kings of that scene and we were doing something that just people were into. And so these guys that were going to do Ultra had never really thrown a big festival. And they had somebody ask us to talk to them about working with them and doing this party on the beach. And I mean, it's kind of like if we didn't play for them, I don't think they necessarily ever would have become what they became. And so it's funny, like they actually brought it up. One of the originators, this guy Russell, is he was like, man, without you guys, we would have never turned into what we did today. Like you guys, like being the early thing that like created the vibe. And I thought that was cool because I really didn't. I mean, to me, I was like, man, you guys took it way crazier than we ever did with you. Like we were getting 20, 30,000 people. Now they get like 60, 80, 100, over 3 days. So it's really awesome.
No, it's insane to witness, and I don't know. I just think it's exciting to know that you got that type of support down there. Do you know
That's,
Otto von Schirach?
I was just talking about him recently because I have this sample pack of his in contact of all
Oh,
these
right,
really
yeah.
amazing electro sounds. And and then I ran into that video where see we're gonna do
Wait,
Kevception right now.
I see images in Vogue back there.
Yeah, see here it is. Kevception. It's like
Oh my
An
God,
interview within
that
an
was me.
interview
I can't
within an
believe it.
interview. Um, what was I gonna say? So I saw that video of you dressing up allegedly as a Sasquatch.
I, I've heard rumors about that.
I heard too, and all I could say was I was at that show, so I felt even more weirded out that you were allegedly a Sasquatch.
Which one was that?
The show with Otto at the Echoplex or whatever.
Oh, that one.
That one.
The one that's on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah, I gotta say that one was captured really well by Rihanna. Oh God, I'm talking on both sides of your head. Look, it looks like I'm just speaking.
Ah, ah.
Yeah, no, it was captured
Yeah, see,
really
we're in the
well.
studio together. See, check it out.
Yeah, we're in the studio. Look, there's fishermen.
Man, I want your rack now in my studio. See, wouldn't that look nice, like right there behind your head?
Look at that. My rack is in your studio.
I hate you for having a Pro One. It's so nice.
Did you ever go through a Pro One period?
I didn't. And you know what's funny? Talking to you that one day at your house when 4th of July,
Oh,
we were
right.
in the
Yeah, we
studio.
had a great
I
conversation.
was looking at, the skinny puppy rack, which is so great that you have this kind of like rack of gear that's dedicated to what you used to make. And
It's not dedicated. It is it.
okay, it is.
Yeah.
It is. So what's so crazy is like I realized that I didn't like mono synths when I was coming up
Ah,
because I played piano.
right.
So the idea of buying a synth that could only play one note at a time was like, that sounds dumb. Why would I want a synth that only plays one note? But
What
it's
was the,
funny because that's why I never got a Pro One. It's like I always wanted something with polyphony.
so what was your approach then to getting good sequences back in the at the beginning of the 90s when you really had to make a slick sequence?
Um, yeah, just programming. And one thing I'll tell you that I was back then, I did an interview recently and it kind of dawned on me that there's people that are into like the saw wave, square tooth, sine wave, like, you know what I mean? Like that's their jam. Like
Yeah.
they want to tweak a synth that way. I was a sampler. I had
Okay.
synths. My first synth was like a Roland JX3P with the little programmer and
Yeah.
stuff. And then I had like the Juno 106. But once I got a Mirage, once I got an Emax, once I got an ASR 10 by Ensoniq, I just
Right.
started sampling everything. And that became kind of like what I did.
What were you sequencing with?
Um, Funny enough, an Atari Stacy
Oh,
with
right.
Cubase on it. It was the laptop version of an Atari computer.
Wow. I don't think I even saw a version of one of those.
Yeah, I still have it. I'll have to show it to you
Does it work still?
You know what's funny is I bet you it does. I bet you I could load it up. And it really is. The funny thing about the Atari Stacy laptop is it actually had MIDI in and MIDI out on
Yeah.
the side of it. It was literally ready to make music.
Yeah, the 1040 ST also had MIDI in and out.
Yeah, I think for like a
Forgive me, I'm
brief
being bitten
moment,
down here by
Atari kind of thought about doing music-based stuff. Very brief moment.
uh, Gerhard Langling wrote the Pro 24, it was called,
Hmm.
program, and then went on to do what? Didn't he do Cubase as well as Logic, or did he just do Logic?
I think it was just Logic.
Just Logic.
Well, no, because Cubase is Steinberg. I don't think Logic was Steinberg.
It's funny, at that time, the Pro 24 was Steinberg, but I think he left.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because I know I saw his name in the writing credits.
Is this freaking you out? You're still behind me?
Yeah. It's like I'm also being bit by this cat constantly. This whole, it reaches down like biting my leg.
Oh
He's
man.
year old. She's very, very, very feisty.
Well, let's see what we have.
We suitably named her Tiger. So Tiger,
Tiger.
yeah, you can go down and you can.
Let's
So what
see.
are you doing to work with now? What type of DAW do you like to approach work with nowadays?
Um, it's there's probably three. Well, I got the new Logic recently, but I'm not totally committed to going there.
What 10.5?
Yeah, I used Logic before and I hated it, and I really no, I really did. I
Yeah, you can
coming from
play.
coming from Cubase and Nuendo, it was really difficult to deal with a lot of the functionality of the MIDI and everything else. There was just a lot of stuff that kept making me go, "Why does it do that?"
I know
You know
it's
what I mean?
non-logical at certain points.
Yeah. And someone told me they're like, "Man, if you learn all the keystrokes, key commands, Logic is great, but if you just want to use a mouse, it's always annoying."
Yeah,
So I made the jump to Ableton. And I kind of the reason why I love Ableton is again being a sampler, it feels like a giant virtual sampler, right?
sure.
It's laid out in this way where it's very simple. And today I was like joking around because I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play weird sounds. So I have like so I have weird sounds. I had this Skinny Puppy sample pack from Zero G.
Oh yeah.
Like
I don't know how they got away with that.
Things get in a difficult situation.
Man, the good old days.
I know. No, one thing about your music is you guys were always so great at making these vocal sample hooks. And I totally feel that a lot of my music did the same because I was inspired by you guys doing it, you know.
So that was mostly my world. I was more the dialogue sampler in Skinny Puppy.
Yeah,
Dwayne
like
was
you would
more
watch movies and like
Dwayne
record
was more
stuff.
the organic drum, keyboards,
Yeah.
and bass samples, and then
Mm.
uh, things like that. But I was the one that scoured the movies. Dwayne also sampled the movies too, but I always felt like when you just found that right voice or that right moment where it just spoke in a certain consecutive order, it felt like it would tell kind of like a mini story in itself. That's like
Absolutely.
super important, like bonding step to the end part of the icing of the cake almost. It's like, yeah,
Well,
here's
I think if you were into movies, you completely kind of wanted to. You were making music scores for a horror film that didn't exist. You know what I mean?
yeah, and at
So
that time we had come from a horror movie background, and so I
mm,
think the three of us uh, also really like to immortalize certain movie quotes
right,
that way, so that you
yeah.
could theoretically pay tribute, homage to, say, Evil Dead or
See,
The Exorcist or whatever.
yeah, a lot of the sampling I did too. I was discussing this recently was Easter eggs, right? So I did a remix for Garbage. You remember the band Garbage, or they're still around?
Right.
But Garbage is awesome, and I was doing some remix of one of their songs, and it had the thing about "I'm waiting for you" because I'm waiting for you. It's the song Milk, and I sampled Pink Floyd's "Time" because it just had this cool little, like almost like clock type of feel. You know what I mean? Because I was like putting that in the bed of it. But I always thought it was so funny because I never got in trouble for it. I just put it enough in the background where if you paid attention, you'd be like, "Is that Pink Floyd?" And I think that was just kind of fun. Like I did that a lot on records just to kind of give something for people to try to find. You know what I mean?
For sure. That was one of the most funnest parts.
Yeah,
I mean, who didn't love having to spin the record backwards to see if there wasn't a secret demonic message?
exactly. No, and that's exactly it. I've put backwards things in there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, even that Seven Loves Electro record, at the end of it, I found some recording of his baby and the mother laughing, and like I put that like in the background in this weird way, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like they were listening to it and they were like, "Did you sample Seven?" I was like, "Yeah." Like it just comes naturally for me to embellish ear candy within the music.
It's so weird that, the first time we actually went to get permission for a sample was what ended our sampling of dialogue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this was really strange is that we had met Timothy Leary and kind of got the okay to use the left handshake sample, which is basically, him being quoted out of the
Yeah.
movie The Trip. And he said, "Oh, I love that. I love that you're using it. And it should be no problem. But send a note off to Henry G. Saperstein and see what he says." So we sent it off to Henry G. Saperstein, and he said, "Absolutely not." He said,
Wow.
but. And then we even had Timothy Leary write a letter to send in our protection, but the record company didn't care. And that was the first time they said, "No, that's it. This record is, or this song is off the album." So we
Huh.
said after that, "Oh my God, I'm going to be scared." But that's right at the point where then they started suing. I can't remember who was the first band that got, was it like Pump Up the Volume or something like that? I can't remember which song it was.
Mm.
Really opened the door to sampling,
Well, it
identification.
was such a new frontier at that time that people really didn't know what to think about it. And it's kind of like streaming now, right? You have all this streaming going on. You have Facebook, like if you're a DJ and you're playing other people's music on Facebook, Facebook mutes your stream. Like they just don't know what to do. And so the first thing their thought is well, let's just censor everybody, which is completely asinine.
They're so quick on it now. It's like they can get like, well, it's like whatever that Shazam. I mean, Shazam blows me away. It's like,
Yeah.
half a second or a second of a song. Oh, I got it for you. Ooh.
Yeah. Well,
Sometimes
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think there's two sides of it, and my side has always been that anything that is created that highlights an artist to go find the original art is a good thing. And if you're stopping that because of greed or just overall stupidity, I think, like that was one thing cool about Facebook is I did a live stream and I was DJing and they muted like two songs. And they also give you the option to dispute it. So I literally disputed with Warner Brothers or Sony and I said, "Hey guys, I'm playing your music, I'm promoting your music, I'm mixing it within a set. So if somebody likes that song, they're going to go find it, they're going to go stream it, you're going to make money. There's no reason why you shouldn't allow us on Facebook to stream music."
yeah, man. I before I actually spoke to you, I heard your Last Dance David Bowie version, and I was astounded with that. That really, I think that was one of the first things I ever asked you. Was, what the hell is that?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you created that or you were spinning it, but man, it blew
I
my
think
mind.
that one was just a remix that I like edited or something. Like I mashed up with something else. Yeah.
But it just ends. It ended the creative flow in an open way when sampling became, oh, watch what you're doing, watch what you're doing. I just kind of remember at that point, like, what are we going to think of now? You got to find ways to get around it and think outside the box. That's actually kind of become more fun now.
Mm. Well, what ended up happening is people just said, "Oh, well, I can't sample this, but I can sing it myself or have somebody else sing the hook." So that's kind of what happened.
I've been enjoying your live streams that you've been doing.
Oh, thanks.
It's it's kind of like more the style of music that I listen to
Hmm.
than technically what I make. But um,
Well, it was funny because when I played at your house that day, I mean, for people that don't know this story, him and I kind of met and talked about meeting actually online on Twitter, and then he invited me to his Fourth of July party, And so I basically came over there and he's like, bring some music. So I like hurried up and threw a bunch of stuff on a USB and came over there. And one of his friends, Dre, is always kind of like the house DJ. And Dre was like, yeah, you want to play for a while? And I was like, cool. And I think I played for like 4 hours.
Yes, you did. It was awesome.
And Dre was like, "You sure you want me to play?" And I'm like, "Well, if you want to." He's like, "No, man, this is awesome. I actually get to just enjoy the party for once."
Yeah, and so yeah, typically I'll do a 4 hour set, and Dre will do a four hour
Yeah,
set.
but I went into some more electronic music that I like, not always thinking like, what industrial song should I play for Kevin? And and it was so funny because like he came over bouncing, dancing to something like, "Oh, I love this song," and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." He actually listens to everything. He's not just
Oh no, yeah.
living in industrial 80s.
Did you ever spin at Burning Man or any of those type of
Bunny
situations?
has, I haven't. We were supposed to play live one year and they didn't. The camp didn't get the right permit, so they had to shut their camp down. That was a real bummer.
Have you ever been to Burning Man?
No, not yet.
Yeah, man, I don't know how well I'd survive that.
Well, considering I've been to a lot of renegade raves and I've been to like some, just some stuff out in the desert as far as that goes, I kind of get Burning Man already. Like, I've never been like, oh my God, I have to go. But I do think that it would be an adventure and it would be fun to go check out once, you know. But I don't know. There's two sides of it. There's the side of it of like, I love camping and I love music and art. And then I also like air conditioning and room service. And so I'm like, man, would I make it for a week? That kind of feeling. Or would I just be over it?
Speaking of Zombie Dre,
Mm. Oh, is he around?
so if he wants to join in with the word.
Nice.
So, what is the story? I see that the status is Rabbit in the Moon making a new album.
I don't think we're doing a full album. And kind of our theory about that was uh, a lot of the music we've been making is just like, let's put out singles, People, and also the modern era is get it out there ASAP. Make the
Yep.
music, give it to your audience, get it out there. And so we started just releasing single after single after single instead of trying to be so inside this like full album concept shit show that it can turn into. Let's just put out song after song after song after song. Um,
It's a great idea.
and it was kind of like Andy Warhol's quote that inspired me on that one. He said, make art and put it out. And while people are trying to figure out what it is, make more art. So we just had this feeling of like, yeah, put this out. Oh, you don't like that song? Well, here's another song a month later or 2 months later. You don't like that one? Oh, here's another one. And just be consistent.
Weird.
Oh, is he happening? Is it clicking?
We can hear you now a little bit, Dre, I think, but we can't see you. You're invisible. So I've been speaking to quite a few at-home studio guys, and
Hmm.
we're always saying you're either making music right now or you don't feel it right now. How
Oh,
you
okay.
react to the coronavirus situation?
Yeah, I've been making music, and at the same time, I've also just been trying to spend some time like upping some production techniques and doing a lot of technical work in the studio, kind of organizing things and going through like
Yeah.
some new VSTs that are inspiring. And I found an interesting VST the other day. It's made by Algonaut, and it's called Atlas. So what it does is you can actually it's kind of like a drum machine VST, which
Nice.
I kind of was like trying to get away from them because I've tried different ones, but they always like with Ableton, I was always like, well, if you just program what you want in Ableton, that's your drum machine anyways. You don't need other stuff because I have push two and all that things. But this one was really interesting because so it's I wonder if I can screen share. Can I screen share?
The future is here. You can.
This
wish
is
I
my first Zoom, so
Yeah, no,
I'm
you're
not
doing good.
completely.
I can't change my background, people, because I have a 10.9.5 OS. And you got to go to 10.11 or something like that.
Let's see, where
And
else do
my
we want
laptop only uses 10.9.5. So the future is not upon us here.
I know I thought I had some other cool video stuff. There's generic ones that they have, like space, the beach. I still like Two Dark Park.
But
Oh,
so
so this plugin, where are you? Atlas. Let's see if it'll load.
Dre, are you there verbally?
Uh-huh.
Oh, listen. Hi, buddy.
I'm making a tea. What's up?
We can't see you. Is that your modus operandi today?
I don't know why you can't see me.
It says your video camera's turned off.
Okay, that's weird. Here, I'll fix it once my
Yeah,
tea.
yeah.
Do 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 do. Okay, so how do you do change to screen? Oh wait, here it is. Maybe.
You can share the screen if you push the green button down there
The green
to-
button.
next to chat. You should have share screen.
Okay, there it is. All right, so
Thanks for all your comments, guys. I'm just noticing half of them here now. Art B and Caterpillar Roll. Everybody out there, I'll see.
oh wait, so it says host disable attendee sharing screen.
Red Hat won't let me go back and review.
Oh really?
Heck with that. So, anyways, you sit down today, and when you're saying you're not so into drum machines, so does that mean that you want to go haul out like a sample library that you've built over years and then use?
Well,
say,
this is what's great about Atlas, and I know there's some other ones I was going to look into as well. So what Atlas does is it creates you take a folder and it could have like a crap ton of libraries and drum sounds and all kinds of crap, and it scans it and basically it creates a map of kits because it actually figures out what's a kick drum, what's a snare, what's a hi-hat,
Oh,
what's a
nice.
clap, and it puts them on like 16 pads. So as you scroll through new kit, it literally just grabs from all of these sounds and makes kits, and you just put in your own MIDI drum beat, and basically you have any kit you could ever want, and you can change out one sound here or there. You can lock sounds in that you want to keep. It's really simple and interesting just to make a quick drum loop based off of your own original sounds instead of kind of being limited. Like it's fun. Yesterday I was just messing around for like 10 minutes and it was like I made a little track just using it. It was like, this is awesome. And I can grab sounds that I'm using, pull them to Ableton, and use them a different way as well.
Can you hear my meowing cat?
I did.
Man, she is just
A lily.
she makes the effort to really squeeze it out hard. It's like she's got the wind compressed, and it's like, no. She's like, sample me.
Right? You should
You
sample
ever
her.
find your animals? Do you have any animals there?
Not right now, no.
Here's Dre. Hi, Dre.
Cheers. Get my Had to get my cup of Psycho candy.
Oh, nice. It's funny. Yeah. Here, wait. Here we go. Cheers.
Oh, look at that, an 808 cup.
And
Nice.
808. That's right. 808 cup.
Do I spy a 707 in the background?
Yeah, it's on the ground.
707. I
It's
don't
on the
see that
ground.
much. I can't see a 707.
Oh, that was a nice. See,
It's
it
on the
actually is
floor.
hiding. That's
Oh, look at that. So you know what that one is, right? That's
what about it?
God's gift maggot.
Hmm.
The TPI box.
Yeah, if you put that together with the 727 combo, you've got all the elements there.
Oh, that's crazy.
Did you ever have the other 727?
No, because I had so when I had this one, I also had an R8, and the R8 was kind of like a little bit of everything. It was like an 808, a 727. It had a lot of like filled in the gaps basically.
I love the sounds, but I hated the pads on that thing.
Mm,
They were
yeah.
that like rock solid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's like these guys like not really knowing about feel. They're just making computer parts and putting them, making a drum machine out of them.
I hear an 808 on most of like your stuff. Is that, do you have an 808 or is it just?
No, no, I just have a 909. No, it's basically just, I mean, nowadays it's not even about an 808. It's just about getting the sine wave and creating the kick
Yeah,
drum.
man. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. That snare drum, man. You know, what is the essential element of electro that has to be in there to make it official Florida approved electro? Isn't it the rim shot? A couple of
I mean, you can go totally like purist and make something that's full on an 808 type of kit. When I had the R8, that's what I did. I mean, I would use that to be my 808 because
oh nice.
no,
You are-
the funny story is that I bought a 303 from this girl I know's dad who bought a 303 and an 808 in Japan when he was like stationed over there or something. And I think he was down to sell me the 303, but I think she talked him into keeping the 808, which so I was kind of bummed because I wanted both, but it just wasn't in the cards. So when I got the R8, it was literally like, oh, okay, well, this has all the 808 bass sounds and the 808 rim sounds and the hi-hats. And so I just kind of used that in combination with like a 606 and a 909. So I kind of always mixed drum machines up. I was never really just using one. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I mean, when you went, did you guys ever play Japan?
Yes. We played a couple places. We played Tokyo and somewhere south in Osaka. I'll have to look it up.
Osaka?
Maybe Osaka. It's an island. It's a little island.
Okinawa?
Maybe it's Okinawa.
Yeah.
I'm totally going like a brain fart on it.
It's this. It would have been like a really small Hawaii type island, small,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
tropical.
It has like okay, it has like the longest, biggest, tallest bridge in like the planet, or one of them.
Oh, that's down at the very end of Japan. That's actually before. Oh wow, what were you doing a gig down there?
Somebody threw a party.
There was a rave or an
There was
outdoor.
there was a rave, and it was so weird because it was right near that bridge
Oh
on
wow.
this like big circular outdoor park area.
Yeah, I didn't want to misquote the name of the region nor the bridge, but yeah, that's in the southernmost island of Japan. That's not Okinawa. That's actually
Okay.
still technically on the more of the inner region of Japan, but the southernmost.
Yeah.
But man, I've always wanted to go there too. I've never. That's one part I have actually never been to.
Oh, okay.
But did you get a chance when you were in Tokyo to raid any of the gear shops?
Well, more just the toy store.
Toy stores, yeah, man. I'll give
Yeah, I
you
wish I would have
the
looked for more
tour or
gear.
the music store. Which one you want?
Huh?
I said I can give you a tour of the toy store or the music store. Which one you want first?
I'll take both.
Yeah. Oh, we can do it in one day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually really want to go there. I was planning to go this year with some friends and try to get some gigs over there, but obviously with coronavirus, everything's on hold.
Yeah, I canceled a gig March 28th. I was supposed to
Oh
do
yeah,
a
yeah, I remember that.
gig in
That was
Tokyo
fun.
with the 5678s, which is probably like one of the most oddest combos I've heard in a while.
Mm,
It was a 15th year anniversary party for Bar Sai. And the cool thing was they were throwing it at this venue. I don't know if you've run into this experience, but you'll
mm.
play a venue in Tokyo and they will be so set up with a sound system that you're kind of surprised that that level of bass and that level of volume is possible in these small spaces. But man, some of these places, best sound I've ever heard. That must
Yeah,
be
no, they
another.
their clubs over there were really cool, like their parties and stuff.
Yeah,
Um, we played we played one giant place where they actually had like a huge stage, like a big auditorium. And that's where we played our show in Tokyo. And then we played like an after hours club, and that was amazing. Um, I got, sorry, I'm like laughing because there's a really funny story, but I probably shouldn't say it because it would be throwing Bunny under the bus. Something that happened there. Oh man.
but
Um,
it's if you ever get the chance in Tokyo, you got to go to this dream shop. What was once a dream shop called 5G, and it was the
okay.
place where you could go find an 808, 606, SH101, or any one of these old school items. And they were, it was, I remember I went there right on the cusp in between,
Mm,
say, 2008 and 2011. It was, they were still like $300-400. And then all of a sudden in 2011 or so, everyone caught on that people were buying them and reselling them. So the price
right.
just went up like overnight, tripled.
Yeah. It's kind of been funny to watch that happen. Especially because I think it's counterproductive to making good music.
No, gear
Uh,
hunting.
not no, not gear hunting. It's just this the next generation of producers saying things like, "Oh, I just use all this old analog gear. I don't use a DAW. I don't use this."
Oh yeah.
Like when we were coming up, and I'm gonna speak for myself about this. I was a futurist. Like everything was like, what's the newest thing? What could I do? What's the most modern approach? Like I still wanted to use cool old gear, but I never put myself in this box that that's all I could use. I never limited myself in that way. I was always like, hey, whatever I can grab to make some cool noises, great, let's do it.
It's starting to get into an era again now where some of the new instruments that are coming out are kind of like compelling me to want to, see what's up with like the Waldorf Quantum or say
Mm.
the Hydrasynth. Got a question there from Metatron's Cube about hey messing around with the Hydrasynth. Um,
Can I
have you
actually
been? Have
see
you?
the chat or no?
Have you
Or
been?
it's only
Remember
you?
that night I met up with you and they were demonstrating the Hydrasynth and the new
Mm.
wave state, the new chord wave state. It's
Yeah, that was
very
cool.
cool. So
Yeah.
have you, has
Those
it
two
compelled you?
Yeah, no, I actually really like that stuff. I like the new wave state. I like even Roland did like the new Jupiter 8X thing.
Right.
Um, it's actually really great. They did some really cool stuff that's very unique to it. They didn't just go, here's my Behringer clone of a Jupiter 8. You know what I mean? They
Sure.
took a Jupiter 8 vibe and then gave it a modern approach where you can use a Moog filter on it. You have these different filters, so you're not just tied into just a Jupiter 8 type vibe. And I thought that was really awesome.
I know it's kind of it's at that time where I have like the V synth,
Mm,
and I think I've heard everything that I feel I can possibly get out of it.
mm.
Wouldn't you agree, Dre?
Mm.
And he's been my
Probably
tech on that synth for a number of years. Anyways,
decent.
we've updated it and updated it and updated it and whatever. And yeah, it's like time to think about a new polyphonic synth with delicious capabilities.
Mm.
And I struggle wondering which one and which way to go. All of my friends are pulling me in each and every direction.
Do you use a lot of VST keyboards? Or are you still trying to be outside of the box with that?
I, I start, we'll start like commonly now, Dre and I will get together and jam and it can be anything in the room. And so because there's a number of boxes, sometimes a lot of things do get started with some sort of external sort of rhythmic thing.
Mhm.
But then, inevitably in the end, when you come down to like making a pad or some sort of sound that is lush or whatever, a lot of us are probably reaching for Omnisphere 2 or, any one of these other, VSTs. I like my old ESQ1 only because it's odd, but it's not like, fantastic. Wow, I'm just reveling at the sound, or, I'll pull the CS80 up for something different.
Mm.
But generally, I'm kind of feeling the itch now for, I know Omar Torres would say, Waldorf Quantum all the way.
Yeah, I'll tell you what about the Quantum. It is freaking expensive,
Yeah,
but I do feel like they definitely gave you a fun toy to play with, like a lot of features and a lot of stuff. But here's another interesting approach too. One of the things that I did when I set this up was piping it in through Ableton and being able to simultaneously sequence in Ableton and play live stuff and have a controller for Ableton. I can have really, really amazing modern effects from Ableton, from like universal audio plugins that make stuff sound super rich and super
yeah, for sure.
analog. And I can manipulate stuff where it's like having a quantum. It's like having, because I already have the basis of the warmth of the
Yeah,
analog, and then putting it through some really cool modern effects. It's like I get the best of both worlds. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So,
for sure.
if you want a giant synth, get a giant synth. But there's also really other approaches that you can do that I don't know that they're not $6,000. You
Yeah.
know?
No,
Yeah,
that's what holds me back.
I'm digging Rolling Cloud for that too. So you
Yeah.
go out and like dial.
Roland Cloud just released what's it called? I forget the name of it again. Oh my God. Hold on. It's called Zenology.
Yeah, Xenology is cool.
And super, super impressed because they're kind of they're going through their libraries of sounds over 20, 30 years. And Zenology is kind of like all of it put together in this one giant kind of uh, manipulating. It's not even a sample. It's not like uh, a ROM sampler. It's like something else because it doesn't even hold a lot of weight. It's not like 20 gigs of sounds. It's very small. Bless you. But it's kind of like they took their technology that was in their synths in the digital times and they brought that into what Zenology is. Um, so it's really great. I'm super impressed. I was going through presets and I was just like, wow, there's some really great sounding synth sounds in here. It's really not boring at all.
For sure. Did you ever yet, or how do you feel about the modular world?
Uh, love hate. I love it because I love the idea of building your own synth. Um, I used to do that a lot with Reactor, uh, but I never really took the leap into full modular setups. And now recently that it's become in vogue, um, it was kind of also I got turned off a little bit because I felt like, man, all this stuff that they're doing, even though they're just taking a synth and turning it inside out, I can do all of that and more in Ableton in the same. It's basically a modular setup virtually, and I can make it sound. I can do stuff that if I played it for you and said this is a modular record from 20 years ago that I found, people would be like, wow, this is really amazing. They would never know the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, do whatever you have fun with in the studio. You know, will I get a modular setup sometime? Yeah, probably. But I was kind of more lately focusing my money and my energy on Sonics, getting like good monitors that were really helping me mix. I got a UAD Apollo and a bunch of the UAD plugins that really kind of bring the analog warmth and stuff into sounds. It's amazing where you can put like it's like having a nice mixing board. You've mixed on SSLs and Tridents and whatever else, Skinny Puppy music. So it's kind of like having a virtual version of that.
I think the sound quality on the mixes that you've got are really sounding good. Is that the Seven Loves Electro? Was that mixed at home and then, or was that mixed in the studio?
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that is
Ah,
there's this plugin that it's funny, a friend of ours had, or I think Bunny had it. I don't even know where Bunny found out about it, but all I know is it became like put that, like anytime we had a problem with a sound, you should put that on it. And I kept laughing. I was like, what
but
is
does it
up with this
spell
plugin?
the
So
secret?
so it's by Audio Damage. That's the company.
Yep.
And it's called Combinat. So it's Kombinat. And there was one called DVA, which is the one we used. And there's a new version called the Try, which is just a newer version of it.
Is that Chris Randall's thing?
Chris Randall, yeah.
So it's unreal. You put that on anything, and it's like, poof, just right there where you want it to be. It's like so. It's just a secret ingredient, and we used it on everything, like everything. So like those vocals, those vocoders, and all the things in Seven Love Electro that are like super punching out at you, they all went through things like Combinant.
Nice.
So
Nice,
it
nice
just
recommendation.
it,
I think
yeah,
I have
I've
it.
recommended to a few producers, and they literally messaged me like days later and were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe how amazing this thing is," because it's just one of those things. Like there's some UAD plugins that I use that do the same thing. It's like you put something through it and it already sounds better. Like you really don't have to do much tweaking. You just kind of use it and it saturates it in that way. Because
So
that's really what it's about, right? It's about
Sure.
saturation and really creating that warmth.
that analog heat box was like that too, and I was like, damn it, Surchai let me borrow it.
Mm.
And I ran everything through it, and I was like, oh my God, this is like the best thing ever. Oh, so I'll have to check out
You,
that plugin.
you know what else I just got? I got the Avalon 747. So
Right.
it's the compressor EQ version. And yeah,
Nice.
we'll have to thank Omar for that because Omar swore by it and he sent me some stuff that he did with it.
Does swear by it.
Dude, it's
That's the,
you know,
the
I
problem,
had
though, is
I
that
had
if you
some
don't
rolling
have one,
cloud. Huh?
it's the problem is if you don't have one, if he's monitoring his mixes through it and then saying, oh yeah, this is
Oh
good,
yeah,
you'll print a mix and send it back here to be like, wait, this kind of missing something.
I know.
And so yeah, I had to get him to start printing stuff instead of just monitoring that way.
Well, the thing was is he mixes through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, what I was gonna say is I found one by the grace of, you know, whatever spirit you go for lately, and uh ended up getting it, and I had some rolling cloud sounds. I had like an 808 drum machine. I think I had like a 303 bass line. Like literally just like, hey, let me pull something up and just throw it through the Avalon. And on Ableton, you can send out an effect channel. So you can literally like wet dry the Avalon. I mean, it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Because it just instantly made everything placed without even mixing it. It was
Right.
like, it just sounded right. It was like, wow, I don't even have to touch that drum part. So it's definitely a great box. But I mean, the Commandant is amazing too. And I think I'm the kind of producer that you use the right piece that you need for that moment, because not every song you can do the same thing.
Yeah, I recently got a piece of hardware outboard gear made by Overstare. It's
Mm.
called. What's the name of the company? He's here local in LA, but so it's like a combination compressor, filter, EQ, saturator, and it's all in one box. But thing is beautiful. Really like that.
Um, so it's just basically you run whatever you want through it, and it's
Yeah, it's like so my recording chain.
mm,
I kind of like these ideas of making like a really deep, a really amazing set of recording chains, and then
mm,
making obviously your monitoring chain. Uh, I don't run that through anything basically because I want to hear exactly what I recorded.
right.
So I won't do like Omar and then run it through the 777 when I hear it back. So it'll just be like, like trying to track everything the way it is and capture that. And
Mhm.
then, yeah, I'm still using Logic. But I'm like you, I start to get to these points where with Logic where there's some things that really irk me about. I'm a Logic 9 still.
Okay.
There was some things
Well,
about
the
Logic
new
10.
10.5 is definitely way better.
So I don't know. There was some things about how we all work and stuff like that that
Mm.
I'm sure we would change right now if we could and maybe adapt to a modern situation of how our reporting chain is and then how our return monitoring chain is. Someone's asking me what type of monitors do we use when we listen back. Do you use a sub
So
when you
what I
monitor?
got recently, what do you have? Like, what do you have for monitors?
KRK E8s they're called, and then I use the 12-inch sub,
Okay.
and I have them on separate sends, so I don't actually roll off my E8s on like a lot of people do when they hook those and configure them together. They'll roll off
Mm.
like 100 hertz or lower on the E8s, and then just use that from the sub. But I actually tend to want to turn the sub off and on, and then see where I'm sitting with that. But being that you are making some pretty killer bass music, what's your monitors of preference, and do you use?
It's weird. We had like it was kind of weird. We almost had like three studios because I have mine,
Yeah,
Bunny had his, and then there was the studio at Insomniac that we would use as well. So it was kind of an interesting like trio of like moving around, and I ended up using Bunny's Adams AX7,
oh nice.
but as them on their own, I wasn't very happy in my room with them. And so I ended up getting the Sub 8, the Adams Sub 8 to go with them. And that's what I was using for a while. But then it was weird because I started to notice when I would work for long periods of time that I would start to feel like ear fatigue all the time. And I was like, well, okay, am I getting tinnitus? Like,
Right.
what's going on with my ears? And funny enough, I had this neighbor that was producing music, and he just had these small focals. And I was listening to some track he made one day, and I was like, wow, these vocals sound so nice. And so recently, I just picked up these focal, um, they're called the 80s, the focal Alpha 80s. And what's so crazy is on their own, they're pretty badass. They're actually very cheap, which is really weird,
Wow.
and they're really big, which is kind of cool because they have a lot of sound dimension. Um, and then what's really bizarre is I wasn't totally happy with the low end, even though it has an 8-inch woofer. And so I hooked up the Adams 80 and I ran the sound into the Adams 80, which crosses over at 85 and just cuts off anything. So the two speakers now run at 85 and above, and then the Atom sub kind of fills in the low end. And it was kind of magic. It was like all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, like now I can actually feel like I'm producing music inside of a club.
Oh,
And
that's
then I also have the Avalon mix cubes, which I got to, like, if I really want to focus my mid range, like, mid range is always a bitch. If you're dealing with vocals, if you're dealing with like screechy synthesizers, and the Avatones, I kept hearing about how great they were because they sound so crappy, but all they do is show you the mid range and it'll help you make the right decisions. And so I got those as like my second reference so that I go to those just to like deal with the mid range. And
How do
they really work great.
how do you treat your mid range if you don't like it?
Man, I also just got another really good plugin. I haven't actually bought it yet. I'm actually just demoing it, but it's called Soothe 2. And what it does is, so in Isotope also has something similar to this.
Right.
It's called, theirs is called, theirs is called, I think, Shaper, Sculptor. So it's called Neutron 3 Sculptor. So
Right.
they're kind of creating these analytical EQs. So they kind of listen to what's coming in and it decides what's a resident frequency and it just starts to cut those frequencies. And if the sound is moving, it follows the sound. So unlike just taking and making a multi-band EQ and having to constantly go, which one's the bad one? Oh wait, this one too. Oh shit, this one too. You literally can put one of these plugins on and it just handles all of them at the same time. And I was just trying Sooth 2. I had a friend that like made a really great idea for a track, but it was horribly mixed and sounds were like all over the place, like phase issues and stuff. And I was like, hey, dude, just send me the track and I'll just like throw some shit on it and send it back to you. And, I tried that plugin on it and I was like, wow, like all those weird, like, this frequency is pissing me off. It's like it took care of them in like 5 seconds. And it didn't, and what was great was it still felt like the sound. It didn't feel like it was like, sometimes you feel like the sound is struggling then. It still felt super open. It didn't feel like it was compressed or messed with because all the rest of the frequencies stay normal. So that was a good one for sure.
Good discoveries and good recommendations for everybody.
Hmm.
Taming those frequencies and having some good tools and people that have worked with them is always good information.
Yeah, and I think what we all try to find, like, I'm not someone that went to school, so I learned this by just working with other people, being in studios and working with people, um, and reading online, trying things out, watching tutorials. I mean, I'll watch some guy produce for 30 minutes online just to see what he does.
Right.
And I found that to be, more inspirational and it constantly makes me evolve my sound and experiment and try new things because you keep on trying new shit and then you try to weed it down to like the 5 things that work. That's the way I do it.
That's all you can do these days.
Mm.
But I don't know, man. You just got to find a way to get inspired and stay inspired with all this stuff going on. Especially here in LA, it's been quite odd with going out. I mean, have you just been staying home now for like what, 65 days?
I did, yeah. Well, I had a very traumatic life experience. Was it right before I met you, wasn't it?
Yeah, you were
I
talking
think
about it.
was.
What was it again, though?
No, that was the one. Yeah, so I almost died basically somehow. Okay, so 3 days before this happened, I was like at a warehouse party where it was super hot and muggy. And then that night, my friend Bunny actually had his second baby, went to the hospital, held the baby, congratulated him. And 2 days later, I woke up one morning and felt like I was buried in snow, like a feeling you just don't ever feel ever. And I was like, holy shit, I need to go to the hospital. Like, I didn't even know what was going on with me. And basically, I had a bacteria that had popped out of my liver, like my liver got a zit on it, and this bacteria popped out of the zit into my bloodstream, and my body freaked out and went septic because bacteria in your bloodstream does not go well. And I almost died. So luckily, after like 4 days of surviving in the hospital, they were able to treat me with antibiotics. So after that, I had really weird PTSD for like a year. I would just get if I felt like I was getting sick or anything was wrong with me, I would just get have panic attacks.
Oh, I bet.
Things I never had before. I would just start like breathing heavy, or I'd have to stand up. I couldn't sit down. And so my this one doctor was like, "You should just go to the gym." I was like, "There's not a pill for that?" He's like, "No." He's like, "We could give you a pill, but just go to the gym, just work out your anxieties." And that worked. And I ended up feeling better and better. But no. And so COVID-19 came out. I was like, fuck that. I'm not going anywhere
Yeah.
until we see what's going on with it and how contagious and all that stuff.
Man, that's too funny. Jill B says, "Can I sample it being said? A zit on my liver.
A zit on my liver.
A zit
Yeah,
on my liver."
I basically had a cyst on my liver. The good thing is, though, is usually they have to go in and puncture it and pop it.
Oh no.
And where it was near my lung and they couldn't go in there. Luckily, a year later, I got a CT scan and it actually went away on its own. So that was a
That's
miracle.
great. Good news.
Yeah, dude, that was like, I know you've had your medical stuff we talked about. So it's just like craziness.
Yeah,
Like,
once
I'm sure you don't want to go out either.
once we get going on a subject, we can go. We can go and go. Dre, what you got going on today down there?
It's Synth Sunday, so it's all about trying to freak the techniques. Right now, I'm all trying to get all this MIDI crap together.
I know. Let's see your studio. Why can't we see it?
Everything is alongside me.
Can you see
Oh,
back there?
okay.
It's the he's stuck in that little cubby hole back there.
Yeah,
Man, you got a beautiful
it's
room.
off to the side of my TARDIS.
Mm.
So, did you ever, David, a machine?
Yeah.
Did you ever enjoy the Johnson Crew or the old school electro?
Um,
You go back to
my electro.
the 80s electro,
Well,
space
okay, so
space
I
electro,
mean, huh?
like the space the Johnson Crew. Dre and I are always love talking about the old Johnson Crew stuff.
That's
Well,
like
the Johnson Crew, like right now, I don't even know who the Johnson Crew is.
Oh, dude, you got to go check it
This
out.
might be before my time.
Yeah, no, it will be for sure.
Google Space Cowboy.
Space Cowboy or We Are the
Wait.
Johnson Crew.
Is that the whole like New York crew that was doing it?
Pac Jam.
Yeah, I believe it was New York.
Because I mean, the New York producers basically took Kraftwerk and
Right.
put hip hop in it.
Yeah.
That was the stuff that I first heard I was. I mean, I didn't even like Kraftwerk till later on. I was more into like the hip hop stuff and Atomic Dog and all this like Prince and anything that was like more abstract drum beats and things like that.
Well, you must have had some Florida electro inspirations as well, right?
Yes and no. The thing that was weird was like my electro came out of just whatever I was doing at the time. It didn't really. I wasn't listening to a lot of it, if that makes any sense, because I was listening to techno. I loved groups like Meat Beat Manifesto, who were sampling the hell out of like giant hip hop beats and industrial sounds and just smashing them through a distressor, just creating these like giant noises.
His
I was
studio
just
is
always
amazing.
interested in stuff like that.
Jack's
What do
studio.
you- Huh?
Jack has like this really wonderful OCD, kind of like I share a similar case of OCD. But man, his studio was like so immaculately put together that you couldn't even find a cable or anything out of place. And he had
Mm.
the original Human League System 100M. He had like just a lot of like he has got a Synthy 100, just like stuff that
Some
you
amazing
really
gear, yeah.
I think that you never see typically set up the way it was set up. But
that was probably that would only be my only regret is that in the 90s I wish I would have bought a couple more old pieces of gear. You know what I mean? At that time,
Well, they
when
were
things were
cheap.
cheaper, because now like you couldn't twist my arm to spend 5 or 10 grand on an old synth that could
Yeah, no
break at
way.
any moment. Like there's no way. I have stuff that's like acting dodgy. Like my Juno 106 has a sound that was kind of one of the what is it, the four oscillators. One of them was acting funky the other day. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to spend hundreds, if not $1,000, to get things fixed. I don't know. It just seems crazy.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
kind
I do like the Behringer stuff. I think it is cool what they're trying to do.
yeah,
Korg is bringing
very
some
nice
stuff
and
back.
affordable, and it seems like they're going to continue along the line. I see that they've got the Octave Cat series going, all sorts of things. I mean,
Yeah.
Monopoly.
I would be kind of sad if they released like the VCS3 with the full stand-up case and everything, and just make I can't. I mean, I guess I would like it, but at the same time, I kind of might grit my teeth a little bit on that one.
What?
The Pro One's very nice though.
Hmm. Yeah,
Call-
didn't they send you one?
And they sent me two.
Oh, I hate you.
So, well, the thing is that I think they commented on a video that they said that
Yeah. I saw that.
okay, used it, and so I just merely commented on the thread. I said, "Oh, thanks for the mention. Yeah, I love it. Send me a couple." And so, pretty soon there later, boop, they just arrived from
Here you go.
Uli, from Uli. I guess that's the head guy.
Yeah.
But I was super appreciative of that, and I free gear is thank you so much. It's just like we'll definitely put it to use. Oh, I love your
Now,
background again, man.
I'll tell you about one of the things that I'm really interested in lately is, there's a whole idea of programming macros, right? So it's kind of like whether it's Serum, whether it's something in Ableton, you create these moments where you can take one knob or two knobs, and when you manipulate them, five things happen
Yeah,
within the synthesizer. And a lot of these old synths have some things like that. I used to love like my Roland JD800 was so great because you could really get such a complex amount of sounds out of that one synth because it was digital, it had waves, it had all kinds of things built into it. And I
Well,
think I've really been kind of focusing on that idea, which is kind of like if, it's almost like if you had a modular wall and you had three people twisting knobs, it's kind of
yeah,
the same effect.
then again, that JD had those sliders, which
Hmm.
is easy. It's like my
Yeah.
buddy had one, and it's great to just put your hand on all of them and just like freak out
Yeah.
on them, get weird results.
But that's
They
kind of
do
my
that.
point now, where like you can do that within a DAW and you can create your own moments like that that have had those happy accidents where you have five knobs doing all these weird random things with effects. And as you're going, it's all of a sudden like, oh wow, like that's happening. That's really cool, you know?
yeah. That's always a powerful way to work. Definitely
Hmm.
macros with the Serum too. Man, you get
No,
stuff
like
going.
I don't know if I can show you something. You want me to show you something?
Oh, show and tell is always good.
I didn't even think about this, but now that I'm thinking about it, I can just show you what I mean. Let's see if this stuff actually works. So the way I set the system up, praying that it works, is all these synths basically just have presets in Ableton, and I can just drag and drop and like whatever synth shows up. So it makes it super convenient to just work with whatever I want to work with.
You mean a MIDI splitter? A MIDI splitter to your events or to your hardware keyboards that are there?
Well, yeah, there's a MIDI splitter. And then I have this one box that kind of syncs the drum machines. It's been a while since I turned this on, actually, because I've been working on other stuff without it. But let's see.
Do I spy a Blofeld up there?
What happened?
Do I see a Blofeld?
A Blowfield? No. No, are you talking about this one?
No, just up above it. No, let me see. It'd be right in front of you. White synth. What's the white synth thing? Yeah, square display.
Oh,
I'm gonna put them on.
hold on, I need longer headphones.
On the
Oh my,
spot.
I'm like gonna fall over. All right, hold on.
Oh no, I don't see the other four knobs.
I think an amoeba has taken over your studio.
This is gonna be a lot of work and probably pretty underwhelming, but let's see what happens.
You're going to send a sequence out to multiple destinations?
Let's see. Well, I'm gonna see if I can just run a 303. The problem is when I set up the stream, that's the only question is whether or not things are going to actually show up. Because I was dealing with trying to set up the stream yesterday. Let's see.
What vocoder was that you were using earlier when you hooked that up? When you
The
turned that
orange
up?
vocoder.
Orange, yeah, I love orange.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Did you hear it, Dre, or were you around?
No,
Really wasn't on yet.
but I do know it. I love that thing too.
Basically just talking like this. I'm like, hello,
I love vocoders.
hello.
It's where I could live in the vocoder-inspired world.
Yeah, the orange vocoder is really cool.
One thing I love about that new MPC update is I don't have to worry about MIDI setups anymore.
Oh yeah, why is that?
They finally added multi MIDI to it, and now anything you plug in with a USB port, it automatically sees it. It even sees my USB MIDI boxes, so I can send MIDI out to various things, and it's just way easier than before.
Because you'd have to
Yeah,
use it.
that's. I have like a
Another
MIDI.
box to
It's
identify
called a MIDI 10, so everything runs through that. But the weird thing is when you have like the 303 and that stuff already has onboard sequencing, and you can't really MIDI it anyways unless you get it done different. I actually got one of the Behringer 303s just so I could try that.
I got that rolling. Which one was it?
Oh, that was some Kevin music.
Sounds.
Some download song, Dugga Dugga.
Got a loose cable.
A loose.
60 hertz.
Yes, subpack. I use it.
Let's see.
Wow. Did you reduce?
It's the whale. It's the cousin of the whale.
A whale? What do you mean a whale?
The sound that doesn't want to leave you. Well, maybe the vocoder's still on. No?
Wait, I sound weird?
Yeah, I hear a bass sound.
Like a 60 cycle hum. Like a
How
gated.
How about now?
It's gone now.
Okay. Oh, that's probably why. This clock. You heard it again? All
What's
right.
that?
Well, funny enough, that's like the sync. So the issue I had yesterday was the UAD console, whatever you send to it, even if it's muted, you'll still get it sent to Zoom.
Oh no!
Oh, yes.
What a shame.
I know. I couldn't figure out how to deal with it. How about now? Do you hear it now?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
What if you make it an aggregate device?
Yeah, I tried all that crap. That'd be too much work for the kids at home to sit around waiting for that to happen. Let's.
Well, it's appropriate timing, anyways. I think I'm about to I have to rush off, and Rihanna's made a beautiful lunch for me that's been sitting here getting cold. But
Oh, nice.
I would like to ask you,
Yeah.
who are you listening to these days for a shout out?
Like definitely Coil.
What's that?
I said definitely Coil. Um, there's a guy, if you want to hear some really amazing modular music, there's a guy named Gerald, and it's Ford, which is Fjord. He has a Bandcamp that you could probably find, but Gerald is Gerald. And he put out an album called Signals and some other music. And he has a crazy, you would love his studio. I'll send you pictures of it. But he makes some really cool modular stuff. Really impressed with that. The funny thing I've been doing lately is I released a bunch of Rabbit in the Moon stems from some tracks we did in the 90s. And a couple of them we've been doing remix contests. So people have been starting to send me their mixes. And
I wanted that Possession one.
oh, cool. Yeah,
Where are those available?
I'll hook you up. They're on Bandcamp. So if you go to DC Rabbit in the Moon Bandcamp, you'll find all kinds of stuff on there.
Is that the best place to go to find your latest material and stuff?
We also have a Rabbit in the Moon one that's just Bandcamp Rabbit in the Moon, and that has more of like all the new releases all put there. The DC Rabbit in the Moon one's more about all the 90s stuff and more retro.
Who's got the kick drum going? Great.
Which one?
A kick drum keeps coming in.
I had to look.
Jesus is in mine? Maybe.
Am I the only one that's fortunate enough to hear the kick drum?
Oh, I can hear it.
I don't hear a kick drum.
It's a
And
mystery.
I'm not sending a
I think
kick
it's
drum.
coming from maybe one of your pieces of gear. I don't have any gear hooked up here.
Yeah, there it is again.
Is it gone?
Does anyone know when DJ Mont is releasing Sex, Wax, and Rock and Roll? I have heard that is already out. Contact Mont Sherrar via his Facebook, and that will definitely get you an answer on that one.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, guys,
Yes.
I think it's an amazing thing to have us all close by, but we can't see each other. We all live in the same town, and we can't even meet up for enchiladas. Darn it.
Oh, I know. Hey, I text you that restaurant.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
check that out.
I got the recommendation. Dre, what are you holding up there? I can't see it.
The patch blocks.
What is that?
The patch blocks.
Oh, that's a for hooking up your USB devices. Your USB devices.
No, it's kind of like the Nord micromodular, where you can pretty much make anything, turn it into whatever.
Oh, right. You get a bunch of them.
I'm gonna talk to the DataBots guys today about that kind of stuff and see if they've used it.
Have you heard that? Have you heard that stuff? The data box stuff.
Oh, and you guys might be on the list. Rabbit in the Moon might be
I
on the
think
list.
Rabbit in the Moon might be on the list for they want to. So, Dre, you're big on this at the moment. It's like people are taking computers and making virtual. It's like almost like setting them on autopilot once they analyze the music, and then they come back with different versions and renditions of songs and different arrangements. Have you
Nice.
on that?
There's some really amazing ones out there now. Now they're starting to do things where they're taking famous people's voices, like
Uh-huh.
Frank Sinatra,
Yeah.
and the latest thing they did is Frank Sinatra singing Britney Spears' "Toxic," which is absolutely insane. And I guess all the music was AI generated, so it's
That's
like
crazy.
big band style. Yeah, it's getting nuts. But
Where do you
those
find
guys are
that, Dre?
a bunch of bands. The Frank Sinatra one is on the YouTube. I don't think it's on their DataBots site, but the stuff they did with the metal alone has been ridiculous. Like, if you want to shout out Florida, it's like Cannibal Corpse They
Nice.
they fed a an AI some Cannibal Corpse, and
Yeah.
it wrote lyrics and music to it, and it's freaking the evilest thing ever. And it
Yeah,
sounds like
that's
sounds like
probably like
scary.
the most interesting thing that's happening right now is this idea that computers are able to figure out what music and lyrics are about, and you're basically going to be able just to like self-generate tracks from it. It's, I mean, it's just fun. It's like it's such a cool thing. It'll never replace human feel, but it's just fun.
Yeah, there'll be no more writer's block after that because you can like
Ah,
throw something in there and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. I want to use that.
no, yeah, that's kind of like what my philosophy's been is trying to create a system that gives you those happy accidents because that's really what always inspires us. It's you're just messing around with something in the right way and it's like, oh crap, that's amazing, and you go in that direction.
Yeah, they should have an artist approved AI. So it'd be like, okay, it's artist approved. They like what they come up with, and basically just let it go from there.
Mm.
I think that's why they're trying to contact so many people, so they can build up a bigger database of music. Because right now it's mostly been metal. Because they did a
Okay.
Meshuggah record, which sounds exactly like Meshuggah, even with the guy yelling. I think I showed Kevin the beatboxer video
Yeah,
where it started to analyze his voice and then it started to do his patterns.
Mm.
It's just pretty amazing. And right now they have access to some heavy processing software for the next 3 months, so they can spit out results a lot quicker.
Oh
That's
wow.
what they're
we'll
trying to
keep
get.
posted of that here, and plus Greg can maybe shout out with some of the links later. We'll put post in the thread.
No, that'd be really
Guys,
cool.
thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon with us here on the chat. I'm gonna have to zip out here. Seems like time can fly by, but best
Go
wishes
enjoy
to
your lunch.
everybody, and thanks to all who support for tuning in. There's a number of you, as you can see: John Thompson, Tony Lippert, Art B, Neverseer, Gernard Goebel. All the comments, Sarlotta. Thank you very much. Let's look forward to new music from Rabbit in the Moon. And Dre, thanks for tuning in.
Since Sunday, go turn on some gear.
Happy Sunday.
And
Turn
hey,
the chair.
Kevin, it was an honor. So thank you very much for having me on your stream.
Thank you so much.
Ooh, that's so cool.
See you guys soon.
Good night.